Have you ever met a woman who says all the right things, but somehow, deep down, you still don't trust the vibe? You can't quite put your finger on it, but something feels off. That gut feeling you're experiencing isn't insecurity. It's your subconscious brain picking up on patterns that you haven't learned to consciously decode yet. Here is the reality that most men are too afraid to face. Women rarely lie about their past directly. They simply don't present it as a formal report. Instead, they reveal it in fragments, in subtle attitudes, and in specific, casual phrases that slip out when they feel comfortable and unguarded. Today, we are going to walk through 6 of those specific phrases, the verbal leaks that expose her level of experience and her psychological conditioning instantly, provided you know exactly how to listen. Most men hear these words and ignore them, or worse, they rationalize them away because they want to believe the fantasy. But the man who understands the hidden meaning behind these words doesn't just listen, he recalibrates his entire approach. If you are ready to stop being blindsided and start seeing the truth beneath the surface, then pay close attention. The first phrase that should immediately trigger your internal radar is when she shrugs and says, "It's just sex, it's not that deep." On the surface, this sounds like the perfect modern woman, relaxed, low drama, and sexually liberated. You might even find it attractive, thinking she's easygoing. But what you are actually hearing is a profound revelation of her conditioning. Biologically and psychologically, intimacy for a woman is rarely just anything. It is naturally tied to oxytocin, emotional investment, and a sense of connection. That biological setting doesn't just vanish by accident. When a woman speaks about intimacy as if it carries no more weight than a casual handshake, she isn't being neutral. She is showing you how she has trained herself to feel. You only arrive at that level of emotional detachment through repetition. Overexposure rewires the human perception of value. What once triggered deep emotion becomes routine through frequency. What once created a binding connection becomes just another physical transaction. When she tells you it's not a big deal, she isn't describing her feelings for you. She is describing her relationship with the act itself. If intimacy doesn't carry emotional weight for her, it cannot create emotional attachment to you. You might think this effortless dynamic is special, but for her, it's simply familiar. A high-value man knows that if something has no meaning, it has no weight. And if it has no weight, it can never anchor a real relationship. Moving to the second sign, which often masquerades as confidence. Most men don't even know what they're doing. When she leans back and says this with a smirk, your ego might want to jump in and prove that you are the exception. But stop and analyze the data behind that statement. The word most is a statistical conclusion. You cannot form a conclusion about a majority without having a significant sample size to compare against. Comparison requires a library of data points. This phrase reveals that she isn't speaking from a theoretical perspective. She is speaking from extensive personal observation. She has seen enough to categorize, measure, and sort men into piles. You are no longer entering a blank slate. You are entering a pre-built system of evaluation. The danger here isn't just the number of men she's seen, it's the fact that she has developed a habit of generalizing the masculine experience. When she speaks in patterns, it means she's already seen versions of you before. Once someone can predict your moves based on their past experiences with others, they stop valuing your uniqueness. You become a category, not an individual. The man who understands this doesn't try to perform harder to impress her. He steps back and asks himself what kind of history creates that level of cynical certainty. The third phrase is a classic warning sign that men often mistake for a challenge. I don't get attached easily. Your instinct might tell you to be the hero who changes her mind, the one man who is so incredible that she finally falls hard. That mindset is an emotional trap. When a woman says she doesn't attach easily, she isn't describing a personality trait she was born with. She is describing a defense mechanism she has built. Women are naturally wired for connection through intimacy. To override that default setting requires a history where attachment either didn't work or was repeatedly discarded. It is a trained response of emotional regulation. If she can be intimate with you and feel nothing but a polite good night afterward, it has nothing to do with your performance and everything to do with her internal reprogramming. You cannot compete with years of repetition. Her brain has learned to separate physical action from emotional consequence to protect itself from the fatigue of past attachments. Trying to win her over emotionally is like trying to unlock a door that has been welded shut from the inside. A wise man hears this and evaluates whether he wants to invest his limited emotional energy into a system that is designed to stay detached. Fourth, consider the phrase that reveals a state of complete saturation. I've seen it all. You might try to impress her with your lifestyle, your stories, or your skills, only to be met with a blank, unfazed stare. This is the death of novelty. The human brain is wired to respond to newness with a spike in dopamine and excitement. However, when experiences are repeated excessively, the intensity fades and the baseline shifts. When she tells you she's seen it all, she's admitting that her emotional triggers have been flattened by overexposure. Novelty no longer stimulates her because she has reached a point of psychological saturation. This is a losing game for you because no matter how different you think you are being processed as just another input in a saturated system. Saturation kills the ability to create a lasting emotional impact. You aren't the spark, you are just another person on the assembly line of her experience. When a woman has reached this stage, your presence doesn't register the way you think it does. The man who recognizes this stops trying to be impressive because he knows there is nothing left to ignite in a heart that has already seen too much. The fifth statement is often disguised as spontaneity. If the chemistry is right, why not? Most men hear this and feel a surge of excitement, thinking they just need to vibe correctly to get what they want. But you must understand what chemistry actually implies in this context. Chemistry is a biological spark that can be triggered in minutes. It's about a look, a tone, a smell, or a mood. It doesn't require character, trust, or shared values. If her decision to be intimate is based on something as fleeting and easily recreated as chemistry, then her barrier to entry is extremely low. This isn't a sign of a special connection. It's a sign of high accessibility. When the trigger for intimacy is that simple, the outcome can be repeated with almost anyone who knows how to create a temporary vibe. This is where men confuse speed with value. Faster doesn't mean more intense. It often means less selective. And what is less selective is, by definition, less valuable. If she chooses you based on a 30-minute conversation because the chemistry felt right, realize that she has made that same choice many times before with others who hit the same notes. You aren't witnessing a rare alignment of souls. You're witnessing a low-filter impulsive response. The sixth and perhaps most revealing conclusion is, all men are the same. This is the ultimate sign of pattern recognition born from high-volume exposure. You don't arrive at a global conclusion like all men from a few isolated dates. You arrive there when your experiences have been so numerous that the differences between individuals have blurred into a single gray category. She is no longer looking at you as a man. She is looking at you as a representative of a species she feels she has already mastered. Her perception is saturated. Whatever you bring to the table, your kindness, your strength, your humor, is being filtered through a lens constructed by every man who came before you. You are fighting a battle against a ghost army of her past, and she has already decided the outcome. Once a woman collapses her perception of men into a single category, your individuality is lost. Most men think they can break the pattern by doing more. But you can't break a pattern in a mind that has already decided it's a fixed law of nature. The mistake most men make after hearing these signs is becoming obsessed with the body count or the specific number. But numbers are just digits. The mindset is the real story. The mindset determines how she will treat you tomorrow. You don't need to interrogate her past when her present behavior and speech are giving you the full map. A woman can have a history and still be capable of connection, but only if her mindset hasn't been corrupted into detachment and cynicism. If her words reveal that she has stripped intimacy of its meaning, categorized men as all the same, and built walls against attachment, then no amount of your effort will change that reality. Stop assuming you are the magical exception to a lifelong pattern of behavior. People don't change their fundamental psychological wiring for a stranger. They repeat what they know. If she knows how to be intimate without feeling, she will be intimate with you without feeling. Your job is not to judge her past, but to protect your own future. Control comes from choosing what you engage with, not from trying to fix someone else's broken patterns. At the end of the day, truth is never really hidden. It is just ignored by men who are blinded by their own desires. Women don't need to announce their history because their outlook on life, men, and intimacy leaks through every casual conversation. 6 simple sentences, but behind them lies a lifetime of conditioning. This is about understanding the environment before you invest your most precious resources, your time, your energy, and your heart. When you learn to hear the meaning behind the words, you stop being the man who gets surprised. You become the man who sees the signs early and moves with authority. The more you understand the hidden mechanics of female psychology, the less power external circumstances have over your peace of mind. You don't need to win a game that is rigged against you. You just need to be wise enough to know which games are worth playing.